here and attend this event. Hopefully it will offer you some great insights. So I guess first off on the agenda, we'll have Geshan, who will be taking you guys through a CV and resume workshop. So if we can all welcome him.
Check. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Works. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So that's a quote by Abraham Lincoln, and that's the amount of time you need to spend on your resume to get it right to the right audience and get the right objectives fulfilled. I'm Geshan Manandhar, a senior software engineer at Simply Wall Street. One of the GDs for Google Cloud Platform, a cloud GDG organizer, and I think I've helped organize this event as well. As I said, I am a senior software at Simply Wall Street. Now, you might be thinking, why would a senior software engineer kind of give tips on how to make a resume? How is he even qualified to do that? So I have helped or mentored like 20 plus people in the past 2 or 3 years find full-time technical jobs from usual, casual, non-technical jobs. I started a project or led a project called AU Tech Jobs that also helped many people bridge the gap between getting like working casual, non-technical jobs to actually finding full-time tech jobs. I have taken like 70 plus interviews, both technical and behavioral, but mostly technical in the past 5 years, just being in Australia. I have taken more interviews in the past as well, but just here in Australia, I should have taken more than 70 plus by now. And I've been blogging since 2007. If you want to follow the slide deck, you could just scan that QR code and this slide deck would be available to you. Yeah, as I said, I work for Simply Wall Street. I just met someone in the morning who was a fan of it. So we basically help make individual investors make confident decisions about investing. Of course, and if you want, you could just go into Simply Wall Street website and then check us out. I am originally from Kathmandu, Nepal, the only country that has a non-rectangular flag and has 8 out of the 14 mountains, highest mountains in the world. Can I get a show of hands who identify themselves as Nepali or having a Nepali root? Not much. OK. That's good. OK, enough about me. Let's get into the agenda. So first, I'm going to talk a bit about the 6-second test, what that is. And after that, we're going to understand the hiring funnel, how that works, plus know the purpose of your resume or CV, whatever we want to call it. I'll just use those 2 terms kind of interchangeably today. And who is its audience? Then I'll go into something like what recruiters look for in a resume. I had done some interviews from 2019 to 2022. I'm just going to show some gist out of it. Then there's a guideline for creating a great resume, how that works. And after that, even this thing works. OK, and then there is a sample resume. And after that, there are some how to get your work experience and internship. Let's get started. So this is a quote from Codemaster that says, a resume says a lot about you. It determines whether you will be called in for an interview or not. So if you happen to like bomb your resume with a lot of other things, you might be missing the meat of the matter and not getting that call. Another research by Ladders says that an average recruiter spends just 6 seconds scanning your resume before deciding is it worth calling the candidate or not. So these are like some base facts you need to put in your mind while you craft your resume. Now, going into the hiring funnel, I think this is something that many junior engineers or people who just start applying don't understand. There is a full-on funnel of how you actually end up getting an offer. Like a lot of people would apply initially. There would be lots of applications for for a job, but then only some of them will get an initial recruiter call. Many of those applications might just be stuck at the ATS level, it's the application tracking system level, so the software that kind of filters things. And then from there, depending upon if it's a technical role, before I go into that, how many of you identify yourself as technical people? By that I mean like software engineering and or other similar stuff. Okay, most people. So yeah, and then after that, you might get a coding challenge, probably like 2 to 3 hours or more, or even a day. That takes a day or two. And after that, you'll be called in for a behavioral interview. I don't know, things like, does this person fit into our team, into our company? And all those kinds of generally non-technical stuff. Then you might have a technical interview that generally goes from 1 hour to 1.5 hours, probably 2 hours as well at places, and that's where the more of the technical parts are queried to you, like checked that you know, I don't know, binary sort and all of these things. I have never been asked about binary sort in any interviews. I'm just giving you an example. But surely things like databases and all of these things. Then after you clear all of these steps, then you would get an offer. One thing that I have not particularly highlighted in that particular funnel is there might be a reference check step before the offer, where basically the recruiters check like all the referees that is sent in, give a good review of you, and then only the offer is sent. Depending on the company, the interview might be first, and then, the technical interview might come first, and then the behavioral interview. The coding challenge might come a bit later, but this is like a very general funnel that I was part of hiring for as well. So first you need to understand that this is the funnel, and it filters, and only probably at the end, a couple of people or how many roles are open are going to get their offer. So you need to craft your resume so that you basically are able to get the initial recruiter call. That's your main task of the resume. So that's where I'm coming back. So how many of you think that the purpose of the resume is to put in all the things you know and then kind of make it beefy? Like how many people believe that a resume should be long and then you just need to put things that you know? Nice. So in my point of view, the primary purpose of your resume is to get that call from the recruiter. That's it, right? And then the other thing is like, yes, you need to let the reader know of your technical abilities and skill, but what you need to think, where your mindset should be is, what's the primary purpose of this resume? Someone looks at it, 7 seconds, and then decides, is this candidate worth calling for an initial call or not? And then you have some secondary purpose of your resume as well. Yeah? And that's where you need to tell about yourself and or inform the other things that you know. But then when you redesign your resume now, what you need to think is, will this resume get me a call in the 7 or 8 seconds that the recruiter looks at it? That should be your first focus, right? Now, talking of which, who is the audience of the resume? So if you know the purpose, then you should know the audience as well. Here again, the first actual person, if not a machine, who's going to look at your resume will surely be a recruiter or a talent acquisition person, and that person is basically going to read your resume for 6 or 7 seconds before they decide if you are going to get the call. So make sure that you sell your abilities within those 6 or 7 period. Even if it's a single-page resume, think of above the fold, what's not on screen and what they are going to see, and does it help them to decide to get that, to decide for them to call you or not. Then there are other people who actually end up looking at your resume, people like me or senior engineering managers who will get the resume later after all of this process has been done, and then they look it from a more of a technical point of view. So it could even be a VP of engineering or a CTO at a small company, and then there they look at the technical things that you have mentioned, the technical things that you have done. Probably some of the technical things that you know, if if you put a lot of jargon in your resume, it is not very useful for the talent acquisition person. It may just fly off over their head. So that's where you need to maintain a balance in your resume, where you kind of address to both of these audiences. Yeah. So some of the quotes that from the interviews that I did, written interviews, of course, that I did from 2019 to 22 about what recruiters look for in your resume. The first one is from Chloe. She focused on having a side project is also a good way to learn. So not just focus on all the general things that you do, have some side projects, especially for junior engineers, because they would not have worked much in the industry. Having like a side project where you can show your skill, show your code and or a working URL, that would be a very good start to get more chances of getting that call. Similarly, Scott from Canvas says, you need to have interest in the product as well. Having a good business acumen as a software engineer is always helpful. These days, or not these days, I don't suppose people who just go in a corner and then write software, that doesn't really happen. You're always working with a team, so you need to know how the business is making money, and then you need to know about the product as well. So that's where like knowing about the product or the company that you are applying to makes a difference. And then we have Pam, the positive Pam from Harrison AI. Yeah, one of the things that is highlighted by her is you need to make your CV organized and put it in a clean manner without typos. That also helps to create the first impression as well as highlight your organization and communication skills. So that's very important. Don't put typos or grammatical mistakes in your resume, and be very mindful of that. Now, having looked at all of these, there are some guidelines for a great resume, and I think the golden standard for resume is that it should be, it's dying on me, it should be a one-page resume. So that's the golden standard. I mean, if you have like 2 or 3 years of experience and then your resume is like 3 pages, I don't suppose anyone is ever going to read that. So it's an art. Like every sentence that you put, if not every word, every sentence that you put, you need to weigh in what you're trying to say. And then again, go back to the 2 things, your audience and your purpose. Do I get that call in 8 seconds? Right? So again, make it 1 page, period. Sell your skills in less than 7 seconds. And as I said, use the real estate that you have. Think of it as pixel by pixel and what you are wasting. Like any extra space or white space would be needed, but then too much of it might just kill the purpose. I have worked in the industry for like 15 plus years, and my resume fits in 1 page. Leave me, who am I? People like Marissa Mayer, CEO of Yahoo, their resume can fit in 1 page. Right? And Mark Zuckerberg's resume can fit in 1 page. Andy Jassy, the CEO of AWS's resume can fit in 1 page. So you, with like 3 or 4 years of experience, 100% your resume can fit in 1 page. This is an example, like all the links that you see here, this is an example of Mark Zuckerberg's resume just fitting in 1 page. So if his resume can fit in 1 page, all the people here, their resume can surely fit in 1 page. Now then you would ask me, like, I have so many things, I don't know what to put in my resume, like how can I actually fit it in 1 page? The main point here is be ruthless. What you don't need, delete. Ask yourself, is it relevant? Can you get me the initial recruiter's call? If the answer is no, backspace. That's it. Unless you don't do that, you just pile up, and then your resume is neither slim and nor does the work. So your resume has to be as fat-free as possible. Then again, there are lots of things that you need to include. For instance, your contacts, email, phone number. It's even better if they are clickable or tappable. That means it's a lot easier for the person to send you an email. And then include links to all of your social profiles, relevant social profiles like GitHub, LinkedIn, your own blog. If you blog, I think that's a very good addition to like having more skills and more communication skills. Similarly, any side projects with a working URL, especially for the technical audience who's going to later see your resume, that makes a pretty big difference. For instance, if I get a junior resume who knows Docker, Git very well. All of these things that are kind of universal to all the developers, they would already go up in the list of people that I would look forward to interviewing. So like it's a balance. Delete stuff that you don't need, but don't miss out stuff that you really need. Now, how to write a resume that actually gets calls? Yeah, the first thing is when you write your job description or anything related to the job, follow the XYZ formula. That means you have accomplished this measured by Y, doing this. I mean, it could just be X and Y at times, but follow this. But don't just, for instance, if you have a job description that has 5 points, don't put 5 of them in XYZ formula, because that might put you to a bit of a boastful scale. So do a balance of, let's say if you have 5 points, 3 would be XYZ formula, and then 2 can be business as usual, like I just did this. That's also a good way to put it. But here you need to put a balance. I have seen many resumes, and most of them just have business as usual stuff. They don't really have, how did I measure what I do? Again, going back to how the business makes money or anything, like they don't have any numbers to prove that they have, like the things that they have done have had an impact. Same thing, latest things first, no typos or grammatical mistakes. And in 2023, probably if you don't do this, then you are again falling back. By that I mean use ChatGPT or bot to fine-tune your resume. Don't ask the bot to create the whole thing, but surely use it to fine-tune your resume. For instance, this is one of the things that I asked Bard, given this is a Google event. So I had got a resume and I was looking at it. There was a line like something like this: work closely with business analysts, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, why is it not in XYZ formula? So what I did was I just put it there and asked Bard to put it in XYZ formula. It did not really put it as simply as that, but at least it gave me pretty good pointers and hints, so I could just copy one of these and then make it more friendlier to the audience. So as I said, 2023, don't ask Bard to like create your full resume, but do use lines and then change them to like tailor it to the needs. Yeah, some more important tips. Networking, by that I mean your network is your net worth. So always try to get someone who can refer you to a company. That does basically 2 things. One, it skips the ATS queue, so you don't go into a software, the black hole of ATS, where you just send it one way and you never hear anything out of it. And the other thing is the person who is referring you, unless they are a talent acquisition or someone in the talent department, they also get a referral bonus when they refer you. So that's a win-win. If you get hired and stay in the company for 6 months, they get something as well as you get a job. So again, I am stressing this point: your network is your net worth. Use that. Try to get into the company. Both of you have advantages, and you skip the ATS queue black hole as well. Yeah, for that you'll need to network and get referrals. Of course, how do you expand your network? Attend meetups. Meetups are back, at least in 2023. Like every 3 or 4 days, I see a meetup happening in the city. So if there is something relevant, I don't know, like JavaScript meetup, Python meetup, whatever makes sense to you, attend it. And maybe have a very simple goal in mind, saying, if I go to this meetup, my goal is to add 3 more people on LinkedIn. That's a very simple goal. There would at least be like 50 people, add 3 more people every week. That means in a month you have 12 people. In 6 months you have 60 people. How not would like 60 or 50 companies not have a vacancy in 6 month period of time? So think in those terms. Of course, utilize LinkedIn, join a community, help organize events. For instance, we had an event here itself 2 weeks back. There were very good volunteers, student volunteers, I think, and they took a lot out of it. So yeah, do that. And then another good tip is to reverse search the recruiter and message them. By that I mean have a hit list of companies that you want to go. Like these are the 5 companies that I want to go, and these are the 5 probable roles that I'm going to get. And then add them on LinkedIn, start a conversation. So do a reverse search. Rather than the recruiters trying to search you, do a reverse search of you having a hit list of companies that you want to go into, and then the roles that you would probably get into. and then start wiring those connections. Yeah, here is a sample resume. I have already given the link to the slide. So, and this surely works in Australia. How I can say that is, yeah, it has been used by at least 30 plus people. Most of them have full-time tech jobs at this point. Very simple, one pager, has a lot of things that you need to tell. For instance, one of the important things, especially for international students, is the visa status. So some of the companies, they don't hire people without a permanent residency. So if you add your visa status there explicitly, that saves your time and their time as well. So things like that. And or, for instance, English. I talked to a recruiter like 2-3 years back, and what he said was, yeah, the first initial call is to basically understand two things. Can this person speak English properly and or in the standard of our organization, and does he fit the culture of the organization? So save them time. Add your IELTS or PT score, and they kind of know that, okay, this person should be able to speak considerably good level of English. Other things, for instance, the side project that you have, put them in, put the code to the side project as well. Basically, the sample is there. You can use it as you want. So here is an example of one of the job descriptions. As you can see, there is a very good balance of, there's an XYZ formula, there is a BAU point to it, and then there's good playing with numbers. For instance, maintainability was increased by 25%, and then code coverage was increased by 35%. You might not always have these numbers available to you, but then there are tools that can get these numbers. Try to find them. Of course, don't lie in your resume, but have basis on if you are asked about these things in your interview, you should be confident and good enough to explain them properly. For instance, if it's code coverage, it's pretty easy to measure because it's just part of your test suite. And maintainability could be a bit difficult, but for this project, we had used code climate, so the person could define about code climate and say the code maintainability was increased and it was measured like this. Similarly, I sometimes see word clouds or just skills and then a list of skills, and I find them a bit difficult to comprehend, because if the skills are not as part of a context, it's just words. By that, I mean, like, if you put skills, Docker, Git, blah, 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 maybe you had used Docker, I don't know, 3 years back, but you're still putting it there, right? Rather than that, putting like a word cloud, that's me personally, and I am not your primary audience, but I'm still going to say that. I mean, when I look at a resume that just has a skill cloud versus something like this, where it's within the context, within the job description, I think that has a lot more power than just throwing words around. Yeah, as I said, like, that particular template has been used by 30 plus people. All the green boxes that you see are the people who actually got first-time tech jobs here in Australia. So most of them were working casual jobs. Yeah, that resume has worked for like second tech jobs in Australia as well. Point is, that works. Yeah, and yeah, I get this question like a lot. What do I put in a resume? I don't have work experience or internship. And then we again fall back to the classic chicken and egg problem. You haven't worked, so you don't have work experience. And because you don't have work experience, you cannot work. Or you cannot find work, right? So the solution to this is, one, probably start your own side project. No one stops you from doing that. If you have a side project, get some friends in, just build a side project. That is one of the things that we built since 2020. It just AU Tech Jobs, it just aggregates jobs from like 60, 70 websites in one place. Start like that. Now, if you think you need money to do that, no, you don't. Just get a Google Student Developer Pack. It has 80 or 90 services for free. And you could get a domain, you could get a CI/CD pipeline, you could get whatever you need for free as long as you are a student generally. So if you are a student, just grab the GitHub Student Developer Pack, exploit it as much as you want. You have your side project running for no money at all. You could leverage other platforms that give virtual work experience, like Forage and Entry Level. I think they give 6 hours of internship virtual and stuff like that. You could just explore them. StartMate has a student fellowship as well. Just try to find them. Harrison AI, again, has a very good job seekers toolkit. It's a Google Doc. It's amazing. Have a look at that. And there are other resources as well that would help you not exactly in work experience, but some other things that would be very good for your resume. For instance, if you want to get motivation, listen to that podcast, Coding Newbie podcast. Basically, she interviews people who have changed careers or who have gone through problems before breaking into tech. So that's a very good thing to listen to. There are a lot of ambassador programs from the big tech company. For instance, GDSC, Google Developer Student Club. Claire is one of the leads for that. GitHub has GitHub Student Expert or something like that. Stack Overflow also has something, Campus Expert or something of that sort. Microsoft has it. Probably other big companies also have it. As soon as you have these kinds of things, that's a very good thing to put in your resume because it shows that you are connected to the community and you are basically kind of endorsed by a brand, by a big brand. So that's one thing. The other thing you might want to do is participate in hackathons. I found a website called Hackathons Australia. It lists hackathon. I think GovHack or something is coming in August. So participate in that. And a lot of events have scholarship for students. For instance, I spoke at 4 conferences in 2019, and 3 of them, as I was a speaker, I asked the organizers, and they were happy to give out free tickets to students. And like people who I knew, I just distributed it to them, and they could attend the conference. One conference was here itself, Google Dev Fest, $20 or something, and I didn't bother trying to get any tickets. But the other conferences, which were pretty expensive, like they were happy to give out student scholarships. For example, GDG Sydney, I don't know how expensive is that, but then if you click that link, you can get a free ticket as a student. So exploit that as well. Again, coming back, like network, volunteer in events or conferences, that's going to again expand your network, same thing. Expand your network, know your purpose, know your audience, and get that resume built. There are some other things that would be helpful. For instance, there are community job boards. There is a Stint community on Slack as well. They have a job board. There is Prospel, that's another job board. Grad Connection by Seek is specially focused on grad and internship roles. Early Work also has a Slack community. They have a channel on Slack that where a lot of jobs are posted. My Startup Gig is another job board that you would want to check out, especially for like junior people or entry-level people. Startups would be a good place to get into. One, you'd learn a lot of stuff a lot faster, and 2, they would be willing to actually hire you rather than a bigger organization. So if you know of any startup communities, like get there and then try to do it. I think we have fish burners at the building just above Vineyard, where there is Microsoft Reactor as well. Probably like try those stuff as well if you want to go in person and see. There is a job board called Work 180 that's focused mostly on women. So if you want like a more woman-friendly employer, you could try that out as well. That's me. Thank you very much. That's my LinkedIn profile, and I'm happy to take questions.
Could you go back to the first slide where we get QR code for the day?
The slides?
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just go back. This is slow. Sorry. Let me just try this. You mean this one? Yeah, that's where these slides are. So you'd find all the links and everything on that particular, that particular QR. Sorry, can we get a mic? Thank you very much.
Geshan, thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask about the strategy to write about our career summary at the top of our resume. So are there any keywords that are nice to have to catch up recruiters or hiring managers' eyes? Thank you.
Okay, I think the panel would be better able to answer that later, but I'll still answer it. Like, at least for me, for the summary, what I would suggest is keep it like short and punchy, but then still have a message. right? By that I mean, like, if I open this sample resume, oh yeah, I mean, this is the summary. So this is basically the summary, like a very short saying, I am this, I have this much of work experience, and I can bring this to your organization. If you write a summary like that, it's a lot better. Always remember the I can bring this to your organization part. Else, it's just like you're self-glorifying yourself, which is not helping much. It's like, I am this, I've done this, and I can bring this to your organization. I mean, if you have that thing sorted, I think that's a much better summary than just trying to say, I can do this. Any more questions? Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
I had a question about, so more and more jobs or like internships and early career opportunities, yeah. They don't particularly look for technical expertise, and like they focus more on behavioral and like just get to know you as a person and then try to make you fit into the group. So yeah, what are the tips and tricks which could probably help in that instead of just technical roles?
Sorry, if I understand you correctly. So what you mean is technical roles also don't really have the technical need?
So like, for example, I've been applying to quite a few internships, and the technical assessment part is not really very advanced.
Yeah.
They explicitly say that, okay, we focus more on the psychometric tests or the behavioral interviews more, and then see if you fit into our team and our culture. So yeah, I had a question about that. How does that work into the resume part, or just as in the interview part?
Okay, I think, like junior people, you would not expect them to be super skilled. That's a very valid point. But yes, I think that's where your people skill and your communication skills comes into play. But that's a bit difficult to show on a resume. That's where, like, not very easy. But I think that would be kind of portrayed by how you write your resume, how you format it, and then basically how you write it. And for instance, if you have any community involvement, if you have, I don't know, like volunteered for an event and then attended 2 or 3 events, that kind of shows your community involvement, and then that kind of hints that you have the people skill and the communication skills needed. So probably it's, as I said, it's not a very straightforward line that you could do, but all the other things from the side that you could help in, so that you kind of score higher on the people skill assessment. I guess there was another one there.
I just wanted to ask, like, what is the best way to leave an impression, like a good impression during that initial call, and how important it is to the whole like recruitment process, I guess?
A later question, later for the panelists, but yeah, I think like as far as my experience goes, the initial call doesn't last long. It's 5 to 7 minutes. My general suggestion would be yourself. Again, be yourself, don't lie. And yeah, just try to understand what the person is trying to get out of you, and then align your answers to that while being real and genuine. Probably that would be my suggestion. But again, a very good question to ask later in the panel discussion.
So I have a question. If you're like, if you've already got like an internship, say it's for like a front end role or something, but you're interested in like applying to like a slightly different field, maybe like cybersecurity or something like that. Mm-hmm. Would you say it's still like a good idea to include that experience in your resume, or like tailor it specifically for that role? Like, if that
tailor it for the role.
Okay.
Tailor it for the role. I mean, I think that's a lot better than. Generally, like, don't have a very generic resume that is sent everywhere. Yeah, tailor it for the role, how you portray the company, and those things would actually help you get a higher chance. Yeah, there's one there. I think we'll take questions to 10:55, so 3 more minutes, and then a break.
Hello. As you mentioned, us to pick like 5 companies that we want to apply on future, and then pick their recruiter. How do we make sure they reply to our text on LinkedIn?
Oh, that's a,
Because there
that's
might be
a hard
some
one.
tricks.
That's a hard one. So again, I think that's a hard one probably for you guys later. But what I would do is probably try to find event. Look, meeting in person is always a very different thing. Like meeting in the flesh is a very different thing than actually sending an email or something of that sort. So probably try to find them in one of the events. For instance, Atlassian used to host React meetups, JavaScript meetups, so try to go there. I don't know what your top 5 list are, but like if it's one of them, maybe probably they have a event. Try to get someone from the organization, if not directly the recruiter, and that's someone who could even be a software engineer, could introduce you to the recruiter or forward your CV to the recruiter. So yeah, you need to be persistent. You need to find innovative ways to reach the recruiter if you cannot. I mean, if you really want to get into that company, you would have done your research, and you should have done your research. So you would have found one way or the other way to get your CV looked by the person who would make the most impact. Yeah. So if not the recruiter, try to find someone technical, have a rapport with them, then slowly, they would be a gateway to the recruiter. You could use that as an opportunity. Probably 1 or 2 more questions, and then we can wrap. Yeah, go ahead.
I recently got an interview. So my straightforward question is it recruiter who decides whether or not to hire, or is it the developer or CTO who take the technical interview? Because who has upper hand? My question is that one.
No one. You have the most upper hand. As I said, it's a funnel, right? So it depends upon where you get filtered. You might get filtered in the behavior interview or the technical interview, or you might not even do the coding challenge to the point that the company would want to accept. So it's a lot on you rather than, of course, if your CV gets stuck in the ATS black hole, then you don't even reach the initial recruiter call, right? So that's where you need to make sure it's not A or B. I mean, it's a process, right? And then I can share some of my experience. So in the technical interview, we always used to have 2 people asking questions, right? And only if both of them said yes, then the person would go to the next step. I don't know what the next step would be. Maybe a behavior interview or an offer, but both of them would have to agree. Because and at that point, a question I used to ask myself after the interview was a very simple question. Would I be happy if this person joins my team, right? If there was a yes to me, then I would say yes, forward, right? If there was a no, because when you come out of a technical interview, especially as an interviewer, it's difficult to come to a point saying yes or no, right? Because it's not that everyone answers all the questions correctly. So I don't know, probably there is a research, but like that says, will you go ahead or will it be a yes or no is decided within the first 10 minutes of your interview. Especially for technical ones. Because by that time, depending on the experience of the interviewer, they kind of know how much do you know. You don't need that full hour. But I have seen, it happens very less, but I have seen people turn the ship towards the end as well. But it's very rare. So yeah, as I said, this is a funnel. And you need to advance through all of these processes. Depending on the company, it might be 2. Depending on the company, it might be just 1 interview. Depending on the company, there might be another interview with the CTO before the offer. So it's a go ahead, go green on all the 5 or 6 steps that is. It's not like someone deciding, like will you be hired or not. For instance, you might have done amazingly well in the technical interview, but with the engineering manager or someone else in the behavioral interview, it wasn't that good. That's the thing. But one tip I would give you here is, regardless of the interview, technical or behavior, be honest. If you don't know something, say that you don't know something and you are willing to learn. Don't give around the bush answers. I have seen people who do that, and that's just wasting their time and the interviewer's time as well. And that's difficult because what happens is like an interviewer or two interviewers are putting, I don't know, one and a half hour out of the day, right? So they are working. And maybe just before that, they were coding deep into something. And if you start giving around the bush answers, whatever you want to say, it's just gonna irritate them, then help you with anything. So yeah, especially for like technical interviews, if it's the first time that you are hearing the word, tell them, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Good interviewers would actually explain you what that is. You know, so that's how I think you should approach it. 57 actually. One last question and then I'd wrap up. Anyone? All good, then we're done. Thank you. Yeah, go.
Okay, so you said about getting experience. I'll sit down. So if we don't have experience, we can get some side projects, get involved with friends, we can make up experience.
Go ahead,
so what about volunteer experience? How can we make it? And does it have an impact?
Okay, now what I would understand as a volunteer experience would be, I don't know, maybe volunteering on events and or contributing to open source, right? If you are applying as a DevOps engineer and you have 3 lines of code in Kubernetes, I would surely interview you. You know, so if you are applying as a front-end engineer and you have 2 PRs in React or Next.js, why not? I would surely go in and try to get that person into the interview. So yeah, maybe in terms of volunteering, probably try to contribute to open source software. That actually is a very good bump to your profile. I guess that's it. We'll take one more. Okay, final one, please. We're running late, so final one.
So I was just wondering, do I need to put my degree, or does my degree matter, and the grades that I get, like in terms of WAM, on my resume, and how much does it matter?
From my experience, grades don't matter. And yeah, in terms of degree, latest first. So for instance, to save space and or to give the message properly, if you have a master's, that means you usually have a bachelor's. You don't really need to put your bachelor's. That's my point of view. So yeah, in terms of degree, like unless you have a degree from Harvard or Stanford, I don't really care. let's put it that way, especially in like a technical environment. Yeah, degree is a nice to have, but I don't suppose it actually portrays your skills or portrays or hints what you can actually do when you come in the organization. Like rather than the degree, in 1 hour probably I could, or like the interviewer could get a lot more asked and known about you. It's a subjective judgment, but yeah, within 1 hour probably that's more valuable than, I don't know, putting I have 2 masters and 2 bachelors. That doesn't really add much to your profile's weight. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll take like a 10 minutes break at least.
Yeah. So can we just have a round of applause for Geshan?
Thank you.